सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्। ॐ पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते। ॐ शान्तिः शान्तिः शान्तिः। ॐ नमो ब्रह्मादिभ्यो ब्रह्मविद्या सम्प्रदायकर्तृभ्यो वंश ऋषिभ्यो नमो गुरुभ्यः। So now we are in the fourth chapter, fifth Brahmanam, which is also Maitreyi Brahmanam. It is a repetition with some slight modifications. So this Maitreyi Brahmanam originally came as the fourth Brahmanam of the second chapter. We already saw that then. Okay. But again, it is being repeated like this as a summary, you can say, or whatever, or as repeating the proposition. That's what Bhashyakara said. Even in an inference, we have whatever initially we propose, the same thing we repeat as the conclusion. So that is what is done here. So this fifth Brahmanam of the fourth chapter is a repetition with slight modifications. This repetition is happening, you can say, as a reinforcement of the teaching itself. Also, we say upakrama upasamharau, like that we say as a linga also. So whatever, however it starts, however it ends, normally the start and end are similar in a particular section. Even in modern reports, there will be an executive summary. And in the end also, we again summarize, correct, the conclusions. And the conclusions and the executive summary are somewhat, it will be same, actually speaking. In between, we give all the data, whatever, or how we arrived at our conclusions. Same thing here. And this Maitreyi Brahmanam itself is nothing but Yajnavalkya is teaching his wife, one of his wives. Okay, he had two wives, and Maitreyi was the Brahma Vadini. So when he gives all his wealth to his two wives, he wants to divide it. Maitreyi asks, what will I do with all this wealth? Will it give me immortality or Amritatvam? And Yajnavalkya says, there is no hope. With all the wealth, you will be comfortably unhappy. Without any wealth, you will be uncomfortably unhappy. With all the wealth, you will be comfortably unhappy. That is the only difference. You will have all the comforts though. Okay, you can feel good about it. But after sometimes, even the human psychology is such that even luxuries become a necessity after some time. Then there is no more luxury, correct? So it is like that. It doesn't make a difference after some time. The fundamental problem, if it is not solved, then it doesn't make a big difference what you actually possess. All your possessions can even become a problem. In fact, the possession itself can become a problem. So that's what he says. Then she asks, then you teach me whatever it is you know, correct? And for which you are saying you want to leave us and go into the forest and all that, correct? You want to take sannyasa. So then he says, oh, no, you are very dear to me, even more dear to me. You are already dear to me, but you are even more dear to me now because you are asking for this jnanam. And then he is teaching, correct? In that teaching, what he is teaching, this is the beautiful part here. This we saw in the last class, correct? That he is saying everything which we love, it is all for the sake of the self alone, correct? Whenever I say I love something, okay, what do I really mean? I really mean is I love myself in the presence of that. That is the meaning, correct? If I say I love this house, what I really mean is I love myself in this house or in the presence of this house. Or if I say I love my husband, it means that I love myself in the presence of my husband. Or I love my wife means I love myself in the presence of my wife. I love myself in the presence of my children. Like this, it is basically self-love alone. which is reflecting on the objects, whatever may be in your presence, and those objects are at least not hindering you from loving yourself. Correct? That's how we have to put it. So all the things which you love are all conditional love only. The only thing you unconditionally love is yourself. So from this, what we can understand means, see, any object of love has to be a source of happiness. And everything, if you are loving only conditionally, means they are not complete source of happiness. But only one thing you are unconditionally loving means it is yourself, correct? So you are the source of all happiness then, because you are the only one whom you are loving unconditionally, unqualified love. So if that is the case, then you have to know yourself first as the source of all happiness. So know yourself. If you want to be happy, you have to know yourself. And then how do I know myself? That is the next thing, correct? So here, having said that Atma is the one for the sake of which everything is loved, then Yajnavalkya here says, Atma va are drashtavyaha. Atma has to be seen or known. And for that, what do you have to do? This is the Atma Jnana Sakshat Sadhanam is given here. The means Shrotavyaha, Mantavyaha, Nididhyasitavyaha. So this Atma has to be heard. Heard means what? From where? From whom? And from where? Means Acharya Agamabhyam. From Acharya, and Agama means what? The Veda. Veda is the means of knowledge to know this self. But Veda you cannot study yourself, because the subject matter being subtle, you have to know it from another knower. Okay, unless the knower has the vision, this vision cannot be transferred. Otherwise, you can read academically also. Nowadays, you can read with the help of AI also. So the new problem is what? Can AI become a guru? I don't know whether AI can really become a guru, but right now AI is pretty bad with Sanskrit text and all that. It seems to hallucinate a lot. At least in my experience, I have stopped using any AI with reference to Vedanta and Sanskrit texts. But it may improve. It may still be a tool for your self study and all that, but it cannot replace a guru. This subject matter being subtle, those who are training the AI, they are not gurus unless they themselves are Atmajnanis and all that. Even then, there is a problem, I think. But anyway, the AI is only as good as how it is trained on and what material it is trained on and all that. So it cannot replace a guru. You have to listen to this Shastra from a guru. And if the guru has this vision, then you will also gain this vision. There is no doubt. Bhashyakara says that in fact, Ananya Prokte Agatir Atra Nasti, he says. Actually, Ananya Prokte Gatiratra Nasti, like that it is there in the Upanishad, in the Kathopanishad. So the one who is Ananyaha, one who has this vision of Atma as Ananyaha with reference to everything, correct? Or with reference to Paramatma itself. When such a guru is teaching, there is no way that you cannot know it, he says. Agatihi atra nasti. Means you will have to know this. Of course, even after knowing it clearly, there may be some hindrances and all that, because different people come with different qualifications. But at least in my experience also, what I have seen, even those who attended my own Guruji's classes, everybody used to say that at least in the class everything is clear. Even my students say that to me many times. What? While attending the class, everything is clear. But after after the class, you go into the Vyavahara, then there are hindrances, correct? This knowledge you are not able to hold on. So it takes some time. That's why we have all this. Shrotavyaha is the first step. For Uttama Adhikari, we say Shravanam itself is enough. You listen and then you are enlightened. But in this Kali Yuga, the Shrotavyaha alone is not enough. So Mantavyaha means you have to use, because whatever the Veda says looks so outlandish, correct? To start with, how can I be the limitless, the infinite, the cause of everything? I am the cause of everything. Everything has come from me. Everything is sustained by me. Everything goes into me in Pralaya. How can I be that infinite when I am this embodied, puny, conscious being? Means that embodiedness itself is wrong, correct? That is the whole teaching. You take yourself as an embodied, conscious being who is limited. That vision is what is being corrected. So, how this vision is not illogical, okay? And even any other vision other than this are all illogical, in fact. That's where we use tarka. We use Shruti Sammata tarka, we have to say. Tarka by itself also will not help many times. Modern philosophers are an example for that, because tarka or logic, okay, let us take in general, is only a tool again. Given some initial assumptions, it can lead you to some conclusions, correct? The process which you follow itself is called logic for that. So your logic is only as good as your initial assumptions, correct? So everything you cannot arrive at logically. Always you have to start with some axioms or initial assumptions. And how good your initial assumptions are, based on that, provided that your logic is also not fallacious, you have perfect logic, still your conclusions cannot be guaranteed that they are correct. They are only as good as your initial assumptions. If your initial assumptions themselves are shown as wrong, then logic will not help you understand that. Your conclusions will be then rejected. So logic does not, that's why in Tarkasya Apratishthanath, like that, there is a sutra is there. Naisha Tarkena Matirapaneya and all, Kathopanishad also says. So don't be fascinated by this logic. In fact, modern people think that somehow to be intellectual, that you have to be logical. That is true. We don't say that logic is not important, but logic is not everything. Logic has its own limitations because it doesn't have any pratisthana by itself, correct? The basis for the logic is very important, and that basis should come either from pratyaksha or shruti, and that is where it is important. That basis should be proper. If the basis is not proper, if your base assumptions are not correct, logic also will lead you astray. So that's why you have to use logic, but properly, to assimilate whatever the Veda is revealing, whatever you have done, Shravanam, to assimilate that and clear all your doubts. Okay, there logic is very useful. But even after knowing something clearly, this is what I said, correct? After you attend Vedanta class for, let us say, few years. So many of you are attending Brhadaranyaka itself. We started, I don't know when now. I have forgotten myself. So we have some 245th class, I think this. That means at least some nearly 5 years, because it's a weekly class. And in a year, I may have conducted only 40 classes, I think. So at least 6 years we are going through this Brhadaranyaka already. And so after listening for a few years, everything is clear to you. There's no doubt about that. But still, the habitual tendencies are there. So knowledge may be there, but it may not be available all the time. That is the problem. So availability of knowledge also is important. So, so to make it available all the time, that's why we say it has to be meditated upon. Nischayena dhyatavyam nididhyasitavyaha. So that this nischaya, whatever you have clearly known, that in that you have to be established in, correct? Means that knowledge should be the basis for all your vyavahara. Not that the vyavahara clouds your knowledge. It should be the other way around. The knowledge should light up your transactions in the world. Not that the transactions of the world have clouded your knowledge. Initially, it will cloud. That is because the habitual tendencies are there. You have to overcome that. Means any insight has to be repeated. Even the modern, all these personality gurus are all there, correct? Or self-help gurus also, they say that, which is correct. Any insight has to be repeated. Just because you got an insight, it will not transform you. Understand? Because here the knowledge has to be a transformational knowledge. It is not some factual knowledge. It is not academic knowledge which we are seeking here. You are not studying Vedanta to get any PhD from me. Many of you are attending for many years. Why should you waste your time in this class? You are not getting any degree from me. You are not going to get any money also for attending this class. So in that way, it is useless from a practical standpoint. In fact, Vedanta is totally impractical. My Guruji used to say, because some people used to even have thoughts like practical Vedanta, correct? In one way, if you see, Vedanta is the most impractical thing. There is nothing to practice. It says already you are what you want to be. So you are already free. So it is purely a question of knowledge. But that knowledge, once you gain also, it has to be made firm. It has to become firm knowledge, means it has to be available to you all the time. It has to transform you. Your self identity has to be transformed. So that transformation is the important thing here. We are not studying for anything else. So it's not important whether you have memorized the entire Brhadaranyaka Upanishad, etc. Because it is not factual knowledge. This knowledge has to transform you. The way you look at yourself, it has to be transformed. Then it will reflect in your vyavahara also, correct? So that is why nididhyasanam, all three are important. In fact, there is whole lot of difference within the sampradaya. Understand, there is a bhamati prakriya, there is a vivarana prakriya, and there is in between. Some people are also saying certain other things. Whether shravana is important or nididhyasana is important and all that. But what you have to understand at the end of the day is, in Kali Yuga nowadays, all three are important. Okay, all three are important. Without all three, you leave out the exceptional cases. We will only talk as a rule. All three you have to do. Understand that. So it doesn't matter which is more important. Of course, without doing Shravanam, Manana Nididhyasanam has no meaning in one way. So that's why we say Shravana is the Angi, Manana Nididhyasana are Angas. Okay, they contribute in some way for you to understand whatever you have done Shravanam, correct? You have done Shravanam of the Shastra to understand that only Manana Nididhyasana, or understand or assimilate, we have to say. Two things you can say. First, you have to understand it clearly. That is Mananam. Then assimilate it and transform yourself. That is where Nididhyasanam is there. So nobody in this Kali Yuga can simply say that I heard it once and it transformed me. Of course, if somebody says that, we can believe them also and say, do namaskara to them and go. If somebody has been transformed by hearing it once, we don't have to doubt or judge anybody and all that. Understand that. If for them it worked like that, let it be. But most of the people have to go through all these things. And once you have this clarity, and once you have transformed yourself by assimilating this knowledge, then what? So that's what he's saying. Maitreyi Atmani Khalu Are Drishte Shrute Mate Vijnate. So this is Sati Saptami, we say, correct? Atma being seen means it has been heard, it has been thought about, or whatever. This Mate means you have clearly known it now through Tarka, etc. Then Vijnate means now you have assimilated that knowledge also. The Jnanam, Vijnanam, like that, even in the Gita, Bhagavan, Jnanam, Tute, Vijnanam, like that. Jnanam and Vijnanam also, it is talked about. So why should we talk about Jnanam and Vijnanam? Means, the Vijnanam means it is your knowledge now. Means that knowledge has transformed you. It is not what Upanishad is saying or what your guru is saying. As long as it is your guru is saying this, Upanishad is saying this, somebody else is saying, means it is not your knowledge, correct? You can still have fact. That's what I said. It will still be a factual knowledge. But once it becomes your knowledge, it is vijnanam. Okay. So once it is known like that, then what? Idam sarvam viditam, he says suddenly. That's the beauty here. See, he started with Atma. He says, you know this Atma as the source of all happiness. And then it is in fact all. This Atma itself is everything. Once you know this Atma as it is, then it is Sarvatma Bhava only it has to result in. It cannot be anything else. The Atma itself is everything. Idam sarvam viditam, he says. That is the beauty. In this case, one interesting thing, because Bhashyakara here gives a small commentary, correct? That is because this portion is different here. Maitreyi Atmani khalu are drishte shrute mate vijnate idam sarvam viditam. Okay. So for that he is giving the commentary now again. Because previously it was, I think, Atmani, no, Maitreyi Atmanaha va are darshanena shrutena matena vijnatena, like that I think. It's all in third case there. Okay, it's not seventh case, Sati Saptami. Then idam sarvam viditam. Meaning wise it is the same, more or less. Okay, but the words are slightly different. So he is again giving the meaning here. He is saying Atmani khalu are maitreyi drishte. So when the Atma is seen, means then again he is asking how. How is it seen? Katam drishte Atmani. How did this Atma become seen or known? Means uchyate. That is said what? Purvam acharya agamabhyam shrute. So having been heard from the acharya and the agama before, then punaha tarkena upapatya mate vicharite, having been analyzed and understood clearly using tarka or logic, correct? Logic and upapatti. Tarkena upapatya means both are really same. Using different analogies and supporting logic, you can say. And again he is saying Shravanam to Agama Matrena. So during Shravana, you have to listen to the Agama. This Tarka and all should come afterwards. See, I think that's why Bhashyakara is putting that note. It's very important. See, even my Guruji used to say, many people used to come to Vedanta. Okay, and we are all unique cases. Because traditionally, how one studies Vedanta is, first you have to study Tarka, Tarka Sangraha, with some commentary and all that. Okay, there are big commentaries, and your head will spin because this Navya Nyaya terminology, once you get into that, uh, it will go Gandhavati Prithivi. For example, if you say, they are saying Prithivi as the guna of Gandha. So that which has Gandha as its quality is the Prithivi. Like this, they make a definition. But then they go on and on in that. Gandha Nishta Ade Yata Nirupita Adhikaranata, like that it will go. That one small thing, Gandhavati will be like, they will they will really expand it in their own way. Okay, it is all like the legalese sometimes, correct? These contracts and all, if you read, unless you are trained in that language, it becomes difficult. So traditionally, you have to first learn Tarka, Vyakarana, and then only you have to come to Vedanta. And Mimamsa also you have to know a little bit. Okay, so those three are important. But when I went to my guru, I did not undergo traditional education, correct? I we all studied in college regular English education. I didn't know Sanskrit also. Only advantage with me was I knew some Devanagari at least, because I studied Hindi till third class, and then we went into Tamil. But since I studied Hindi till third standard, at least the Devanagari Lipi I didn't forget. So it was an advantage. But other than that, we all started learning Vedanta directly, okay, along with Sanskritam. So that is very important. In fact, some people criticize Swamiji for that. The traditional people will say that Swami Dayananda's Vedanta is Anyaya Vedanta, they will say. It is Anyaya Vedanta. Anyaya means what? We didn't study Nyaya, etc. But Swamiji used to say, see, Nyaya, Vyakarana, Mimamsa and all is preparing you intellectually, correct? And if you already have gone through some bachelor degree and all that in modern education also, you are intellectually mature enough to understand subject matter. It should not be beyond you, particularly if it is taught properly. Even though it is taught in English, if it is taught properly without losing the traditional, let me say, the methodology, using the traditional methodology, but in English language, if you are able to teach it, even a modern educated person should be able to grasp it, provided they have come to Vedanta after seeing the limitations of their own accomplishment. Correct? That is the important thing. They are not coming to Vedanta for some entertainment or just trying it out and all that. That will not work. But many people come like that and later on become serious mukshus also. So we should not turn away anybody. But what I am saying is, for Vedanta to work, you have to come to Vedanta with a particular attitude that you have recognized your fundamental problem and I want to solve it. If you come with that, and with what even modern education means, basically you have both emotional maturity and intellectual maturity has to be there. That is the important thing. But even beyond that, certain mastery of your mind. These are the three things, correct? There should be emotional maturity. The emotional maturity only can lead you to mastery of your mind. Without emotional maturity, you can never have, with a conflicted mind and all that, you cannot have a mastery of your mind. You cannot focus. One pointedness and all will not come. So, emotional maturity is very important. Again, intellectual maturity also is very important. Otherwise, you may not understand certain things. So, these two things, with a certain mastery of your mind, once you have, and then Vedanta works. It will work. It can. It cannot but work. Correct. Particularly when the teacher is teaching you properly, it has to work. And once you have known it, means it is like you have known everything. Sarvam viditam. How can it be sarvam viditam? Okay, in between. Okay, one more important thing I wanted to tell you. One interesting thing which I noticed today. Maybe I may have even noticed before. I don't know whether I told. See, in the 2.4 also this section is there. I told you, correct? So here you see Shrotavya, Mantavya, Nididhyasitavya, Maitreyi, Atmanaha va array is there. Instead of Atmani, correct? Atmani Khalu array is there. And again, instead of Drishte, Shrute, Mate, Vijnate, here Darshanena, Shravanena, Matya, Vijnanena, Idam Sarvam Viditam. Idam Sarvam Viditam is same. But another interesting thing I noted is, Bhashyakara in fact has not written much commentary on this. But the commentary he has written is in keeping again with the 4-5 only. Because you see, Tad Upamardhanartham aha he is saying. Okay. And he is writing Atmani Khalu Are Maitreyi Drishte Shrute Mate Vijnate Idam Sarvam Viditam Vijnatam Bhavati like this. He is not commenting on the words which are actually there here. The words here are Atmanaha Vare Darshanena Shravanena Matya Vijnanena, correct? But actually he has commented based on the words which are there in 4-5. If that is the case, I don't know why he again commented on this, thinking that it is different from that, correct? That's why he has given this small note here. But anyway, that is something I noticed today. That I'll tell you. So, okay, if you know this Atma, you have known everything, means how is it possible? Means Upanishad is telling that. Because there is nothing other than this Atma. So, everything is this Atma. So, if you know this Atma, you have known everything. That is the idea. So, that is said now with this next one. This is same as before. So, Bhashyakara is not saying anything. Or he has said a little bit, I think. In this Advaita Sharda, they have put all this commentary at some weird places. So, Bhashyakara is just giving a small note. This should have appeared after this seven only, because this sentence is about the seven. Tam ayathartha darshinam paradat parakuryat kaivalya asambandhinam kuryat ayam anatma swarupena mam pashyati iti aparadhat iti bhavaha. Like that he is saying. So here what the Upanishad is saying immediately, Brahmatam paradat yaha anyatra atmanaha brahma veda kshatram tam paradat yaha anyatra atmanaha kshatram veda lokaha tam parada paraduryaha अन्यत्र आत्मनः लोकान् वेद देवास्तं परादुर्यः अन्यत्र आत्मनः देवान् वेद वेदास्तं परादुर्यः अन्यत्र आत्मनः वेदान् वेद भूतानि तं परादुर्यः अन्यत्र आत्मनः भूतानि वेद सर्वं तं परादात् यः अन्यत्र आत्मनः सर्वं वेद इदं ब्रह्म इदं क्षत्रम् इमे लोकाः इमे देवाः इमे वेदाः इमानि भूतानि इदं सर्वं यदयमात्मा. So the crux is what? By knowing Atma, how can you know all? Sarvamidam viditam, how can you say? Means, for that, this is the answer. Idam sarvam yadayam Atma. In fact, this is a very, very highly quoted Vakya. Bhashyakara quotes this in many places. Idam sarvam yadayam Atma. All that is here is really Atma alone. And for that, Upanishad is what it is saying before, the Brahmatam Paradat means Brahmanaha. So let us say, if you think that Brahmana Jati is different from you, now in that what happens? If you think anything is different from you, you are not only limiting that, you are limiting yourself also, correct? By making anything anatma, you immediately become limited by that very thing. Very fact of making something limited or anatma, not self. If anything, if you make it as not self, immediately you are excluded from that, correct? So that's what the Upanishad is saying it in a very, very interesting way. It is saying, if you take the Brahma as anyatra atmanaha, correct, other than your own atma, then the Brahmana jati will exclude you or reject you. Means you have made it as anatma, and since you are saying, I am not your atma, I am now excluding you, I am rejecting you and all that, because I am the very Paramatma alone. Everything is really Paramatma or Atma alone. And if you say that I am not, that Brahma, the Brahmana Jati is not Atma, then the Brahmana Jati will exclude you or reject you, and you become limited because of that. You become a samsari. Like that, it is talking about everything else. Kshatriya Jati also. So you are not born as a Kshatriya. So now you say that I am not a Kshatriya. Kshatriyas are not Atma, means no. Kshatriyas are also Paramatma only or Atma only. Nobody is separate from you. Everything is really Atma. If you take anything as separate from you, that will reject you, that will exclude you, correct? I mean, in that process, you yourself become limited and you will suffer. So it is the same way we have to understand the lokaha. Loka can be taken as two ways also. Loka, generally loka can be taken as this body also. Okay? Or it can be taken as the world in which you are living. And if you take that as separate from you, then problem. And devas also same problem. If the devas are, in fact, in the one, there is a Avidya Sutra and all, if you remember in the first chapter, 4th Brahmana. So Vidya Sutra, Avidya Sutra. So Avidya Sutra, what does it say? If somebody worships the devas thinking that devas are separate from themselves, then Nasa Veda and all the Vedanta, the Upanishad says, he doesn't know then he becomes like Devanam Pashuhu. Okay, they are all like Pashu for the devas, the Ajnanis. So anyway, so the devas will reject you. Similarly, the Vedas also. And even all the beings, Bhutani, in fact, everything else, anything you, if you consider it as Anatma, in the process, it will also exclude you. And therefore, you yourself will become limited. But what is the reality? Idam Brahma, Idam Kshatram, Ime Lokaha, Ime Devaha, Ime Vedaha, Imani Bhutani, Idam Sarvam. All that is there here, whether it is Brahmana Jati, Kshatriya Jati, any other Jati, all the lokas, all the devas, all the Vedas, all the beings, everything that is here is this Atma alone. How can you say all that is here is Atma? Means Upanishad is giving three examples also for that, correct? Sa yata dundubher hanyamanasya na bhashyan shabdan shaknuyat grahanaya dundubhestu grahanena dundubhyaghatasya va shabdaha grihitaha. Okay, first example is of the dundubhi. Means it's a kind of drum, correct? Even in movies and all, you would have seen that big drum, dheri and all we say. So the dundubhi sound is there. Different kinds of sounds you can produce, correct? Because depending on where you beat and how you beat and all that. But all those Vishesha Shabdas cannot be separately known without knowing the Dundubi Shabda itself, correct? The Dundubi means the drum has its own some generic sound. Without the generic, the specific can never be known. Correct? That means the generic is the Atma of the specific. So that is beautifully Bhashyakara here. He gives one general rule. It's very interesting if you go and read the Bhashya in the 2.4 section. He says, Yet Swarupa Vyatirekena Agrahanam Yasya Tasya Tad Atmatvameva Loke Drishtam. So, Yet Swarupa Vyatirekena Agrahanam Yasya means what? If one thing is there, if you are not able to know that thing without knowing something else, correct? Without cognizing something, if you are not able to cognize one thing, then that something will become itself or its very nature. Correct? For example, clay pot is there. Without cognizing clay, you cannot know clay pot, correct? Clay has to be cognized. If you are cognizing any gold jewelry, you cannot cognize the gold jewelry without cognizing the gold. The jewelry part may be the Vishesha aspect, but you may be more interested in the design and all that. But in reality, what is there is gold alone is there. So that's what the Upanishad is teaching here. In every cognition, consciousness is the invariable, correct? Bhashyakara also says that. This Chaitanya is the invariable. But we have to say Satchit is invariable. Because everything is known as is. And when you say something is, its consciousness is only we have to say, correct? So if you say pot is, pot consciousness is, clay consciousness is, something else, table is, table consciousness is. Means in all these cognitions, consciousness is the invariable. It never changes. It can never change. In fact, everything is in consciousness alone. And therefore, that is the samanya. Like even the generic drum sound, the specific drum sounds are all variations of the generic drum sound only. Without hearing the generic drum sound, you cannot cognize the specific. The specific is included in the generic. So, that's what it is saying. Similarly, it is using other examples also. Shankha, Kanch. And third is Veena. Now, Bhashyakara, finally, he even gives one note here saying that why three examples Upanishad has to give means, he is also saying further, see, drum sound is one kind of sound. Within the drum sound, Vishesha sounds, specific sounds are there. The drum sound itself, specifically, you can make in different ways. Similarly, Shankha, how you blow, you can have higher note, lower note, etc. Correct? So many variations are there. And Veena, how you play, how you pluck, etc. But all of them are still sound only, correct? So all of them have to be cognized as sound. So that way, these three also are really only one. Like this, he is pointing out. And everything is finally only consciousness because even sound cannot be cognized without consciousness being there, correct? Sound consciousness is, you have to say, means sound also is consciousness. Without consciousness, there is no sound. But without sound, consciousness is there. So once you understand this, you have understood that the even the silence, The word silence, mauna and all is used to again refer to Brahman alone. It is actually a Lakshana for Brahman. Because even when all the sounds have stopped, what is there is still that consciousness is there, correct? So Mauna also is a Lakshana. It also implies or indicates Brahman. Silence, sounds of silence and all. There is even a song, I think. Even sometimes they say in some kind of dhyana, you listen to the whatever the sound which is not there. Means basically you understand yourself as Brahman, which is free from all sounds. That is the idea. So, like these three examples are given. Okay, this note I already read. Tam ayatartha darshinam means one who is not jnani. Correct. Yatartha darshinam means one who knows things as it is. Ayatartha darshina means one who is not knowing things as they are. Means he is rejected, he is excluded. Ayatartha darshi means one who takes something as anatma here. And he becomes kaivalya. Asambandhinam means what? Kaivalya here is atma alone is kaivalya. Correct. The atma is the only thing which is really there. That atma, if you do not know and think that something is anatma, then you will become detached from that limitless atma and become a limited being. That is the idea. So I am anatma swarupena mam pashyati. So since you are seeing something as anatma swarupa, that will also exclude you and reject you, and in the process you become limited. That's what he is saying here. So iti aparadha, that is aparadha. Okay, that is a fault. Because of that fault, you yourself become limited. Okay, now the 11th is very interesting. And for this also some commentary is there, but in this Advaita Sharada, it just come here. Okay, it can be here itself, I think. But anyway, we'll quickly see this. Sa yatha ardraidhagnehe abhyahitasya पृथक् धूमाः विनिश्चरन्ति एवं वारे अस्य महतः भूतस्य निश्वसितम् एतद् यद् ऋग्वेदः यजुर्वेदः सामवेदः अथर्वाङ्गिरसः इतिहासः पुराणं विद्या उपनिषदः श्लोकाः सूत्राणि अनुव्याख्यानानि व्याख्यानानि इष्टं हुतम् अशितं पायितम् अयं च लोकः परश्च लोकः सर्वाणि च भूतानि asya eva etani sarvani nishvasitani. See here, another important thing is in 2.4, only up to this vyakhyanani is there. This ishtam, hutam, ashitam, payitam, ayam cha lokaha, parascha lokaha, sarvani cha bhutani is not there. Okay. It is there only in this 4.5. Now for that, why the reason for that Bhashyakara is giving. See here again, to show you that all that is here is Atma, and everything has come from this Atma alone. It is sustained by this Atma and it will go back into this Atma. Two analogies are given by the Upanishad here. Okay. What are those two? One is the wet fuel. If you burn the wet fuel, different types of smokes are coming, sparks are coming, all those things, correct? Pritak dhumaha vinischaranti. Okay. Ardra yedha agnehe is there. Ardra, ardra means it is wet, and fuel, the fuel which is lighted up, sorry, the fire which is lighted up on wet fuel, it will give different types of smokes and sparks and etc. Like that only, how this smoke and spark spontaneously it has come once the fire is lit. Like that, from this Atma alone, everything has come. Okay, including what? Rigveda, Yajurveda, Samaveda, Atharvangirasaha, Atharva Veda, then Itihasa, Purana. All these things are talked about here, correct? And Vidya, different arts, Upanishad itself, the shlokas, sutras, like Avidya Sutra, Vidya Sutra, and all we said, and even the whatever explanations for that, Anuvyakyanani, Vyakhyanani. Now, up to this only it was said, and directly it will go to Etasya eva etani sarvani nishrasitani. That was how it was there in 2.4. That is because there all the Shabda Prapancha was said as having come out of this Bhuta. Okay, this great being, and it is like its very breath. That is the other analogy here. Breath itself is given as an analogy to show that it is effortless. How we effortlessly breathe, correct? See, when you breathe out, so many things are going, but it is very effortless. Like that, the entire creation is like breathing out for this Atma. Effortlessly, it comes out. And again, when you take the breath back in, it is Laya. And in between, if you are doing some Kumbhaka, Puraka, Kumbhaka, all that means that is the whatever sustenance, I think. Like that, you can take the breath itself is given as an analogy for Shrishti, Sthiti, and Laya. And it is effortless, like the breath or this. So it doesn't sweat, or it is not, it doesn't require any holiday and all that. Remember, that is the idea here. It is effortlessly all these things have come out, but only the Shabda Prapancha, the words were talked about, because all these things are words, correct? Rigveda onwards up to Vyakhyanani. But the idea there was word is not separate from its meaning, correct? Vagartha viva sampriktau. Kalidas also says Vagartha pratipattaye jagatah pitarau vande Parvati Parameshwarau. So Parvati and Parameshwara are like Vag and its Artha, inseparable. So by saying the Shabda Prapancha, Artha Prapancha was implied there. But here, Artha Prapancha also is explicitly said. So after this Vyakhyanani, Ishtam, Hutam, Ashitam, Paitam, all these things are given. Now, Ishtam means what? That which has been assigned, or it is to be offered to a devata, correct? Because in a yajna, before you actually offer, you have to say a mantra, and then, or you have to say something like Agnaye Swaha, and you will also say Agnaye Swaha, Agnaye Idam Na Mama. So I am now offering this to Agni. This is for Agni, and it is no more mine. While saying all these things, whatever you are supposed to offer has now become Ishtam already. Hutam means when you actually put it in, after saying this only, you have to put it into the fire, correct? That means you have already offered now. Whatever is already offered is called Hutam. Whatever is to be offered, but it has been the mantra and all and is said, and you have now said that this is not mine, means that is Ishtam, we say. So Ishtam, Hutam. Ashitam means whatever you eat. Paitam means whatever you drink. And then Ayam cha lokaha. Again, Ayam cha lokaha can be taken as this body or this world. Parascha loka means some other body or some other world, and all the beings, all these things. This is the Artha Prapancha also is given here. All this is nothing but the breath of this being means what? That's what they have all come out. Like if it breathes out, these things have come out and they are there. And then when it breathes in, everything goes back into that being itself. So this being is the Jagat Karanam, correct? Jagat Sthiti, Jagat Srishti, Jagat Laya. For all that, this one being is the Karanam. Therefore, that alone is there. That alone is everything. There is nothing other than that. So, if you know that, you have known everything. Again, you have to link it to that. Another thing also you can take here is all this entire world is like smoke. Means it is not really, you think that the world is something solid, liquid, and something out there really which is there, correct? It's not like that. It is all like smoke alone, like Dhuma only, correct? Different types of Dhuma. It is all like Gandharva Nagari only, really. What is there is Atma alone. Chaitanyam alone is really there. Everything is only an appearance in the Chaitanya, including space-time, correct? Like even your dream, waking is no different. So one has to be very clear about the reality. Just because you see something, it is not real. In fact, the Vedantic logic is totally opposite. Whatever you see is not real, in fact. That is our logic. And whatever can never be seen, that alone is real, which is yourself, correct? You can never be objectified by any pramana, and anything which is an object of cognition is unreal. You are the only real thing, which is the consciousness. All these objects of consciousness appear in consciousness and resolve back into the consciousness. And whatever is there is consciousness alone. All this nama rupa do not count. That's what you have to understand. So for that, this wet fuel, smoke, and the breath, etc., are given as analogy. So Bhashyakar also says here, what he says, Chaturthe Shabda Nishwasanena Sabda Nishwasena eva Lokadi Artha Nishwasaha Samarthyat Uktaha Bhavati iti Prithak na Uktaha, he says. So in the Chaturthe means in the second chapter, okay, fourth Brahmana, there only up to this, if you go back and check, only up to this Vyakhyanani will be there. That is because he is saying Shabda. By talking about Shabda coming out of this, its Artha also is implied, he is saying, correct? Okay, Lokadi Artha Nishwasaha Samarthyat Ukta means what? It is understood. Because the Shabda and Artha are not separate, Artha also has to be understood. Therefore, it was not separately said. But here it is said. So he is saying, but Ihatu Sarva Shastra Upasamharaha iti Kritva Artha Praptaha api Arthaha Spashti Kartavyaha iti Pritaguchyate. But here it is separately said, he is saying. Why? Because we are now concluding the entire Shastra. So this section is considered as the conclusion of the entire Vedanta Shastra. So when we are concluding, to be very clear, we don't want to leave anything to your assumption, okay? Or by implication, we don't want to leave anything. We want to explicitly state and clearly state. Therefore, Shastra wants to do that. So Bhashyakara is saying it is now Spashti Kartavyaha iti Pritaguchyate. It is separately now saying. So that's why it has added Ishtam, Hutam, Ashitam, Payitam, Ayam cha Lokaha, Parascha Lokaha, Sarvani cha Bhutani. All these things have been added. So that is how here it is explicitly said. Okay, the rest of the things we'll see in the next class. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.
धन्यवाद।